you welcome with Cindy and myself, Dr. Gregory Jantz, all the way from Washington State. God bless you.
Hey, great to be here. Nice to see you, yes.
You know, and I figured you were going to be, like, really happy because if you have a book entitled Happy for the Rest of Your Life, you have to be a good testimony to your own book,
You know,
right?
all my other books are, I get all the topics like depression and eating disorders. It was time for a book on happiness. And we do have a choice.
We do have a
Yes.
choice. We do have a choice. So can people really be happy in these tough, you know, stressful times?
You know, here's what we're seeing right now. The World Health Organization says by the year 2020, depression will be the #1 problem in the world.
Wow.
And that's over cancer and heart disease.
Yeah.
And we have an epidemic of depression. And we have far too many believers that are living under sometimes a bondage or a stronghold of depression.
Yeah.
And I believe that you can walk out of that. Yes, there is hope.
Yes, there is hope. And you yourself, Dr. Jantz, have struggled in some of these areas. Talk a little bit about your personal story.
Sure. Well, 25 years ago, we founded a place, and I had the helper's disease. I said yes to everything. Now, I first started working with eating disorders. I'd work with people with eating disorders all the time. And actually, my very first job was in a women's prison. Lots of eating disorders in the prison, by the way.
Really?
And from there, I went on a quest. How are we going to really treat people with eating disorders? So we created a whole person approach. But you know, in all of that, I really opened up some doors for some defeat in my own life. And really what was happening was I wasn't taking good care of myself. I really wasn't practicing what I was preaching. It was not intentional.
Right.
And I really
couldn't say no.
I couldn't say
that happens to so many of
disease.
us in ministry.
Yes.
I mean, really, there's so many of you watching. You just can't say no, and you've got all this stress, and you've got to learn how to prioritize, don't you?
You do. And, you know, I wasn't taking good care of myself. And I have to tell you that I know what it's like to walk through a depression. I know what it's like to be down that path. And I know what it's like to come out of it as well. And I know there can be victory. There's always a missing piece to the puzzle. People give up too quick, or they look for the quick fix.
I know that it's not always easy to recognize if you're in depression or someone you love is walking through that. And I see commercials all the time now about depression, and they're giving you
and you need bouncing ball thing.
Yes, and you need this pill, right?
Yes, and they're giving you a pill to fix it. And so I thought, well, I even have thought that, well, how would you know if you're in depression or someone you love is facing it? And you...
Yes. Okay, sometimes, and for those, sometimes it's subtle and it's sneaky, and it gets this stronghold on you, and you start to lose the joy in daily activities. Maybe you notice your sleep is off. Maybe you feel like you're in the middle of a spiritual desert, and you just can't seem to connect with God, and you find yourself isolating. You're turning away from people, things that, you know, you would seek things of the Lord. Maybe you, I'm too tired to go to the Bible study. You know, you're finding excuses. And over time, you start falling maybe back into some old, really self-destructive behaviors. If you had an addictive past, and I know there's some that you've had an addictive past, and today, maybe the economy and the present struggles, you find yourself now, you're back at a place where there's the temptation to go back into those addictions, whether it be alcohol or drugs, prescription drugs. I'm telling you, we're seeing way too many Christians that, you know, stress is high, they're looking for comfort, they've got into a depression, and now we're making poor choices.
So what are some of the steps, and what would you prescribe as a doctor to those who are listening today? They say, you know what, I'm in a rut.
Yes.
I want to come out of it, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. What would you say to them? Is there a way out?
And I think it's important to note that some ruts are normal. We have seasons and times. Sometimes the Lord's speaking to us. Sometimes a rut is a sign, you know, you need to change something.
Yeah.
And just listen. So we need to first pause, pray, and listen to the Lord. What does this rut represent? It may represent I need to change something in my life. You know, something as simple as basic self-care. Drinking enough water, for good grief. You know, taking a walk.
Getting out in the sunshine.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, Seattle and sunshine. Thank you. We work on that.
Yeah.
But the first thing you got to do is acknowledge, you know what? Maybe there's something I need to change. And Lord Jesus, show me what it is I need to change. Open my eyes to what I may need to change. And there's times we can't do it alone. There's times we've got to be big enough, brave enough, and bold enough to say, you know what, I need help.
Yes.
And to ask for help. You know, as great as my books are, a book isn't necessarily going to be the cure. You're going to have to take some action. And that may mean sometimes I have to say, you know what, I'm not doing a very good job handling this on my own. And it's the healthy people that ask for help.
Yes.
Don't wait. we find people wait way too long in their struggles.
Well, what can a person do? Because I believe a person that's very pessimist can get very depressed because they never see good in anything. So how can they begin to see things differently?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are some Christians that kind of get in that rut.
A lot of them.
And there's a negative glasses they're wearing. And they forget the power that's available to them, first of all. And if we're looking at the negative, we need to go back and go, you know what? This is not how Christ sees me. I need to readjust my lens to how Jesus Christ sees me. Because I do have victory. And maybe you're going through a very, very difficult time right now. And I want to acknowledge that and not deny that. There can be times it's really difficult.
It's real.
It is real. Absolutely. Okay, this is where get the accurate view of who Christ sees you as being. For me, you know what? I've got to start my day with praise. I've got to remember the power of praise. Because the enemy can't stand the praise. Okay, I got to make sure I'm doing the basics. So go back to the basics.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That's good. You know, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about something even that you and I have talked about, Cindy, and I'm sure, Dr. Jantz, you'll agree with us, and that is, one of the 10 basic commandments, and that is to take a Sabbath, that we have to rest.
Yes.
And this is something I preached to Cindy, because she was going 7 days a week, working in ministry, and
it's
wearing,
all good.
It was all good, except that the Lord commanded us to take a day of rest.
And there's a reason for that.
Because He knew that we needed it. What about rest? Because I really feel like there may be some watching today that you have just worked and worked and worked. And like, Dr. Jantz said, it's good things you're doing, but you're not. You're breaking a commandment and you're not resting.
And what's happening is that restlessness is turning into anxiety. And you may be laying in bed at night or being woke up in the middle of the night. You've got anxiousness all over you. And you're opening up doors, as Don talked about. You're opening up windows of opportunity for the enemy to get in, because fear is the great paralyzer. And if you're in a mode of worry, and worry is mental, you're recycling over and over and you're worrying, but that worry can move to anxiety. It's got the pit in your stomach, the sweaty palms, and you start to not think clearly. It's a time you got to renew your mind, but remember, sometimes we got to call that anxiety off of us. And we have the power to do that. Yes.
Because the spirit of fear will paralyze you and absolutely cause you to begin to think insane.
And I know we all know it, but the Lord has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power. Go back to the power.
You mentioned in chapters 10, 11, and 12 the role of optimism, the role of hope, the role of joy. About a minute, share on those three things.
Sure. We know one thing, that optimism changes everything. And we know that God has a plan, and it's not too late. Maybe you feel like I got on the wrong road, made a detour, I got wrapped up in things that weren't right. That's okay. God can put you back on the right road and at any time. And that hope comes when we have a plan. And we can have a plan, and it's God's plan. Maybe you say, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. You may not know what it is right now, but the right doors will be open to you. And optimism says, I have a future and a hope. And that is a blessing. And if you're going through a difficult time, maybe you're out of job, out of work, there's layoffs, we need to be sure we're speaking words of blessing over those that are struggling. Don't let the door of anxiety come in. And worry.
And the joy.
The joy, listen,
of the Lord is our strength.
Yes, and I talk a lot about that we can live blessed, which means we can live with happiness.
Yes.
And it's a choice
we can make. And that's what the book's about.
Yes.
Happy.
And you can do it no matter where you are. You can.
Yes.
Can you tell that I'm passionate about it?
Yes. And it's so important. Happy for the rest of your life. I invite you to go out and get Dr. Gregory Jantz's book, How to Be Happy for the Rest of Your Life. 4 steps to contentment, hope, and joy. And 3 keys to staying there. I tell you, we especially need these kind of books in this season that we're living in. Also, write some of the scriptures down that we're talking about. The joy of the Lord is our strength. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. If you have to speak that 100 times a day of yourself, then do it, because the Word of God is powerful.